you almost threw that over the bank.
Well, we'll go ahead and open the meeting. I believe it's called a commission meeting and to hear public comments on redistricting of the San Juan County and also the fiscal year 2022 proposed budget. So with that, roll call, we have all members, I believe, are present. Commissioner Adams, Commissioner Maryboy, and myself are here. Roll call. And invocation. Kenneth, can you provide opening prayer? Chief.
Oh, bigger. Okay. Yes, I will. Our Heavenly Father, we bow before you again this evening. Again, please guide us through the meetings that we're about to have for our community and for our people, that you might be able to give us a good guidance. Sad niset ahan jongo eya ekon asahale ilia dolis digin yod digito pai lane kojon dolis ot ekon not on it and lekon shitche woolly gray eyes Adam the ekon Bruce Adams jongo hadin eden idolis digin yod a die put out a agenda so the give between the cadolis. Did ask for that when you get Hojona Slade or listen to audition, Hojona Slade, and I say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, thank you. Next, we have consent agenda. Mr. McDonald?
Yeah, I'll read through these real fast. These are just routine items on here. So you have the consideration and approval of the community service block grant contract renewal for $19,855. You have consideration and approval of the renewal of the bingo size contract with Western Kentucky University for an additional 2 years. You have an approval of the scanners through the CARES Act. This is an expense of the purchase. And then these are kind of all small contract items or small purchase amounts. Approval of the small purchase order of $3,411.40 for radio communication equipment. Ratification of a small dollar amount contract subscription with Providence Corporation for the Sheriff's Office and Mental Health Assessments Program using $6,822.90 using CARES Act funds. Ratification of a small dollar amount contract of $3,500 with WHW Engineering LLC for an HVAC system analysis using CARES Act funds. Consideration and approval of vehicle lease contract with Unified Services for various vehicles for public health, aging services, and economic development. And then the final item on consent items is consideration of a small purchase for Dell Technologies for a video conferencing system for $5,240.06 using CARES Act funds.
Okay. Any motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Adams' motion,
Second.
second by Mr. Maryboy. Okay, any question, comments? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Okay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries.
Okay. And the next item, you have the public hearing for the commission and school board redistricting maps. I'd recommend first, before we open it up to public hearing, so we'll just have Bill Cooper, he's online as well, go through and kind of give an explanation of the maps that we have on here, and then we can turn it over to the public so you can make a motion to open the public hearing.
So,
Make a motion to go into public hearing.
yes.
Did we want to present the maps first, or?
I would recommend that. Yeah, it'll be.
I think we need to have Bill Cooper present the maps and then go into public hearing, so the public knows what
they're looking at.
his reasoning for the maps are.
Okay.
So
Mr.
moved.
Cooper.
I'm right here. I don't have a map on screen though. Is Matt going to scroll through the different plans, or?
You should be able to see our screen.
Well, I see that, and I see the plan that has been prepared by Mr. Gorman, which reflects the Navajo Nation's proposal for the county school board. Now, Mr. Gorman may be the best person to describe exactly what his intention was in drawing this plan. It is fine in terms of one person, one vote. The districts are equipopulous almost, within just a couple of people, really. There's a summary chart there that is a little too small for me to see, but I have seen it before. And I know that we're really looking at districts that are almost perfect in terms of meeting one person, one vote. And as I understand it, Leonard's main objective was to balance out the indigenous population across the 3 districts to the extent possible, while at the same time preserving chapter boundaries to the extent possible, and town and city boundaries to the extent possible. And so his plans drew District 1 in the north. It's very similar to the plan already in place that has a 6% indigenous population over 18. District 2, which goes from the northern part of the county into Blanding, is 30.5% indigenous. District 3, which is, could you scroll back up? I believe that's going to be on the east side, right? Yeah, that's on the east side, southeast side of the county, almost entirely in the Navajo Nation. Is 60, I'm sorry, it's 85%. I'm sorry, it's not 85%. It's 68. It's 71%.
Of the 18.
It's 71% indigenous, correct, Leonard?
So about 68% indigenous.
Wait a minute. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong column. It's 68%. Yeah, there we go. And then the other 2 districts, 4 and 5, which are also based in the south end of the county, are both right above 80% indigenous voting age. So you have 3 majority indigenous districts and 2 that would be majority Anglo, majority white. So that this plan would be consistent with the plans that were developed by the special master back in 2018 during the litigation under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. So although I'm not a lawyer, in my opinion, this plan would suffice. I think there may be some question about where incumbents live with the commission plan, but as far as I can tell, from what I understand, with this school board plan, all the incumbents live in their respective districts that they are in today. And I certainly would turn it over to Leonard if he wanted to explain in a little more detail anything about the plan. You can see it was produced very recently, November 16th. So some people may not have had an opportunity to review it, but I think most would have because it's been a couple of weeks now.
Yeah, these have been posted on our website.
And we're now looking at the commission plan. Again, it is generally in sync with the current plan in terms of the location of the districts. District 1 is in the north and extends into the city of Blanding, and is shared in Blanding with, District 1 in this plan does not go into the city of Blanding. I don't think. Do we have a better shot of that?
There you go.
I believe we do.
Right here. So you have all of the districts.
Yeah, District 1, it does go into Blanding, and it's also encompassing all of Monticello. And then you have District 2 also in Blanding. And that district is currently represented by Commissioner Gray Eyes. And then on the eastern part of Blanding, extending out to the county line would be District 3, represented by Commissioner Maryboy. So it's generally in sync with the plan that is currently in place and has been in place since 2018. The underlying demographics for the plan, and we're scrolling through it right now, have District 1 at 70% any part indigenous, and District 3 at 75%, and District 1 would be the majority Anglo, majority white district at 11% Indian. At 11% indigenous. And I'm just highlighting the indigenous population, but Leonard's summary stats here also break out Latino population and non-Hispanic indigenous population. So it's a comprehensive look at the demographics for each one of the 3 districts that he's drawn for the commission plan. And he used this same style for the school board plan as well. And it's basically the same approach that I used for the plans that I've developed and also for the plans that I produced on behalf of the auditor's office, at least the statistics and the maps. I also broke things out in a similar fashion, as you see here with the Navajo Nation plan.
And this one here, it also places Commissioner Maryboy in Commissioner Gray Eyes district, combines the two.
Yes, I do not know for a fact, but I'm sure Commissioner Maryboy could enlighten us on that point.
Right here.
Clearly, this plan could be modified if that's the case. I'm sure it was not the intention of Mr. Gorman to put the 2 commissioners in the same district. I'm afraid that the same thing happened with a plan that I developed a couple of weeks ago that attempted to realign districts so that more of the city of Blanding would be in a commission District 1, and also I believe in that plan, which is option C, I may have inadvertently put Mr. Maryboy in a district with Mr. Gray Eyes. And the option D, which is another plan that we'll look at maybe in a few minutes, put all of the city of Blanding in District 1. But in order to do that and also simultaneously meet one person, one vote, I had to split Monticello. So again, all of these plans have different permutations and differences, but at least in terms of one person, one vote, all of them meet one person, one vote requirements, which is a fundamental requirement.
Yeah.
Beyond that, we do need to sort of at least make an effort to comply with the judge's order from 2018 and the special master's report that accompanied that order. So I believe that Leonard's plan does do that, with the possible exception of inadvertently placing two incumbents in the same district, which can be fixed.
Yeah, I reached out to Leonard on that and made sure he was aware of that fact, and he was fine leaving it the way that this plan was, that he presented it as that, but he did acknowledge that he was aware of that case.
Okay, well, I do not have a complete knowledge of Utah state law in terms of whether or not it's okay to put incumbents in the same district as you're going through the process of drawing a voting plan. It seems like the attorney for the county said that there's a state law requiring that incumbents be protected. So that may be something that someone can further explain during this hearing. Because I don't really have an answer to that question.
Okay.
As to whether it's a requirement under state law.
Okay.
Okay, we're now looking at Auditor Plan 3, which is the last plan produced by the Auditor's Office. James Frankham. I can't recall James' last name. Starts with an F.
Frankham. Yeah. Yep. James Frankham.
Yeah. Okay. This is my reproduction of a plan that he prepared using a website called Dave's Redistricting application, where it's possible to go online for free and use real census data and produce a plan. And James did that for 3 plans. The plan we're looking at now is the 3rd plan he produced, which would divide the county into 3 districts for the county commission as it is now. Instead of using district numbers, at least in this 3rd iteration, he identified each district just by the initials of the commissioner. So you can see that Mr. Maryboy would be in what I've called, generally speaking, District 3,
Mm-hmm.
and Mr. Gray Eyes would be in District 2. In this plan, I believe that all of the towns are kept whole. So Blanding is in District 2, and White Mesa is in 3, and Monticello is in 2, I believe, or maybe it's 1. Yeah, it's in 1. So he managed to keep all of the jurisdictions in the county whole without splitting them. There is an issue though with this plan because it falls well shy of the suggested percentages for Indian majority districts as accepted by the court in the 2018 litigation. District 3, which would be the district represented by Mr. Gray Eyes, has only a 54% Indian majority district voting age. And District 2 is 71%. So if you go back and look at the report filed by the special master, he went into a fair amount of detail, basically reviewing not just the map that he presented, but also some of the underlying information that was produced during the 7 years of litigation relating to the lawsuit and the school district and commission district lines. And the expert that the plaintiffs hired, a political scientist from University of North Carolina and also Tulane University, I'm sorry, it was Duke University, Richard Engstrom determined that a 54% district would not be sufficient to allow a candidate of choice to a candidate of choice of the indigenous population to get elected to the county commission. You would need a higher percentage in order for that district to be competitive. So that would be an issue with the auditor's plan number 3. Other than that, it does meet one person, one vote. And it does also follow census boundaries and keep cities and towns intact, no splits. So in that regard, it fits. And it certainly would be compliant with the judge's order. The issue would be, though, that District 3, with just a 54% voting age population that is indigenous, probably would not pass muster with the court.
Okay.
And I might add that you can see that there's a link on the website so that you can actually go in and look at Dave's redistricting application and study these maps in detail. All of the maps that are being discussed today are on Dave's redistricting website.
I've included him in
You
here.
can get to
as
the
well.
link from the county's website. And these are just a couple of zoomed in maps that I did showing how Blanding would be divided, or the area around Blanding would be divided under the auditor's plan 3. We're now looking at a plan I developed back in October, which is option A for the county commission. This plan was developed by me. It also complies with one person, one vote. My objective in drawing this plan was to try to keep the district lines as close as possible to the special master's plan that was produced in 2018 and based on 2010 census data. And so the objective was just to move as few people as possible. And I think maybe we have a page here on this, maybe the next screen, that shows that I was able to keep the percentage of the population moved. Well, I guess we're not going to see that maybe just yet. But roughly speaking, I think I was able to keep the same people in the respective districts, except for about 5% of the voting age population. I have those numbers somewhere, it's just not in front of me. So it's very similar to the plan developed by the special master. And I was able to avoid splitting any of the chapter boundaries on the Navajo Nation reservation. So the only real place that is split, that is an incorporated entity, would be Blanding, where the lines are split. And there's a detailed map also online, and I guess we'll look at a little bit, that shows how I divided Blanding. But again, the changes are minimal. And overall, the statistics for this plan are quite similar in terms of the Native American indigenous population percentages by district compared to the special master's plan. And then I did a series of maps that just showed sort of how the population was shifted around. And on the county's website, you can look at these maps and see which parts of the city of Blanding would move from District 1 into 2 and areas on the map that were moved from District 2 to District 3. So that could be a little confusing, but if you look at the maps, just remember that the shading shows the areas that is moved, and then there's a little caption showing the actual population underneath those shaded areas that would shift into another district. And I do have a summary page here that gives you the precise percentage of people who are shifted by plan. And I also did that for the Navajo Nation proposal and another series of plans that I produced called Option B that
There's option B.
also attempted to closely follow the Special Master's original plans. One thing that I discovered after producing Option A for the school board plan, which we'll get to, maybe we'll get to it, maybe we won't,
we will.
is that I had inadvertently paired two school board incumbents. So that one's really off the table. And so the next plan up here we see is Option B, which is a commission plan that I drew that is more in sync, I guess, with the Option B school board plan, but it's really quite similar to Option A. The one difference is that in Option A, I shifted White Mesa into District 3 from District 2. In this plan, White Mesa stays in District 2, and I instead shifted Denahosta chapter from District 2 into District 3. These shifts are required because District 2 was slightly overpopulated and District 3 was slightly underpopulated. And so that's what led to the shifts in the commission plan.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
question on your A, you have Denahosta under District 2.
Right.
Plan B, shift that community to District 3. How does
That is correct. That's one difference. That's right. And the reason for that was that I needed to balance out the population, and that was one way to do it. There are other possibilities, but that was one way to shift population around and put more into District 3.
okay?
The percentages of the indigenous population of voting age in both Option A and Option B for the commission are fairly similar. In both instances, I think that District 2 is a little bit lower. It's like 67, 68% voting age indigenous, and District 3 is 75%. It's sort of difficult to balance things out, but Leonard Gorman actually achieved a closer balance in his plans, balancing District 2 and 3 at both around 70%. Any part Indian, I believe. Yeah, you can see that there. So the only issue might be the question about whether Mr. Maryboy is paired with Mr. Gray Eyes in that plan, but the population is balanced. There's no real requirement to match percentages exactly, but there's also no problem with doing so. And so Leonard did achieve that. That was one of his objectives in developing the Navajo Nation proposal, as I understand it. But the percentages in Option A and Option B that I have presented, actually, I believe, have a slightly stronger District 2 than what was produced by the Special Master using the 2010 census data. As I think everyone knows, in indigenous population has increased a little bit in the county since the 2010 census, and that is partly reflected in my plans because the percentages in District 2 are a little higher, and I also think maybe in District 3 for the commission. And here you see the summary page that I was mentioning that shows the percentages of the population that would be shifted under option B for the commission plan. I did a similar one for option A. Under option A, under option B, about 5% of the voting age population for the entire county would be shifted from one district to another. And of that 5%, if you just break out the Indian voting age population, 2.2% of the population is shifted, and a slightly higher figure would be the case for the non-Hispanic white population, a little bit over 8%. And so you can use this table along with the maps I prepared to identify the areas that were shifted and the precincts that are involved, and also more or less the location of the shifts. So I hope that wasn't too confusing, but it does allow people to kind of get a handle on areas that were shifted. And this map shows option B, a zoom on Blanding, and you can see the shaded areas there are the areas that were shifted in option B compared to the 2018 plan prepared by the special master. So you can see there's shading there around both sides of the highway leading out of Blanding, and that was an area that previously would have been in District 1 and would be in District 3 under option B. And also there's some spots in the town of Blanding that are shifted. And this is a zoom out even more, just showing Blanding area in general. And you can see for the most part, option B keeps the area north of Blanding in District 1 as it is under the Special Master's Plan from 2018. And here we see the school board plan that I developed that corrected the error in the option A school board plan where I had inadvertently placed two incumbents, the incumbent in District 3 and the incumbent in District 4 in District 4. So this corrects that so that each one of the districts has an incumbent residing in that district. And again, the school board plan developed by the special master in 2018, which is based on 2010 census, had become more imbalanced since the 2010 census. So District 5 was overpopulated and District 4 was underpopulated. So population had to be shifted from District 5 into District 4. And District 3 is sort of blocking the area that can be shifted from District 5. So some areas were shifted from District 5 into District 3, and then other areas in District 3 were shifted into District 4. So there's a little more shifting going on here. And you can see that the overall deviation for this plan, which means the difference between the most populated district and the least populated district, is a little bit over 1%, 1.6%. Normally in a voting plan, you want to aim for something that is within plus or minus 5% or a deviation of 10%. Most of the plans that have been produced here are near perfect at 0. This one is a little off, but it's certainly acceptable. There's no requirement that you actually hit 0. If you're, you know, in the range of plus or minus 1%, you're just fine. I run into a lot of localities around the country that accept plus or minus 5% and will routinely have districts that are right up against those figures. They always, of course, are expected to keep things within a plus or minus 5% range, but rarely do you actually see plans that are as perfect as some of the plans that have been produced here in San Juan County in terms of the population distribution in one person, one vote. And this table here is, as I described, similar to the description of the plans that Leonard Gorman developed. This breaks out total population figures by the indigenous population, Latino population, which is a population that is growing in the county, and the non-Hispanic white population, both for all ages in the top row, and in the second row, we see the figures for the voting age population. And I have three categories, voting categories for the Native American indigenous population. One is just those who reported that they are single race indigenous. Another one that also a category called any part indigenous, which would include some persons who are of more than one race, one of which is indigenous. And then there's another breakout in the middle category. You see it's 18 plus NHAP. That means persons who are any part indigenous but not Hispanic. The other category, which is the most expansive definition, includes persons who are both Hispanic and indigenous. There are not very many in that category, but you can see that the most restrictive category is a single race in terms of the population that would be included. It's 51.44% for the over 18 population indigenous. If you expand it to include non-Hispanic indigenous, it's 52.35. And then if you include everybody who is at least some part indigenous, it goes all the way up to almost 53%. And it's even higher for the total population that would include kids under 18. And in the school board plan, I have District 4 and 5 at about 83%, because those districts are almost exclusively in reservation areas. And District 3, which runs into the city of Blanding, is lower. It's in this particular version, option B, it is 69.4% any part indigenous voting age.
Let's see here.
And these maps are in the same style as the commission plan, zoomed out and then zooms on the various districts.
Let me zoom in, get that zoom in map. So this is your zoom in.
Yeah, this is just showing the Blanding area. And as you can see in this map, the area that Mr. Black lives in, that I thought he lived in the city, but he actually lives on East Harris Lane, which is outside of the city. And so now all of that area is in District 3. So he's back in District 3 and not paired with Miss Cody. And this just shows the zoomed out area around Blanding. When we look at the next map, it will show more detail for Blanding streets. And you can see here that with the school board plan, more population had to be shifted around due to the population imbalance. And so there's an area there to the north of Blanding that was previously in District 1 that is now would now be under option B in District 4. But District 4 does not go into the city of Blanding. It still remains entirely comprised of District 2 and District 3.
That's kind of all we have on maps. I don't know if we wanted to take a look at the school district boundaries that the Navajo Nation proposed.
Well, that's true. I think we looked at the numbers, but we didn't
look at the numbers.
So here you see the numbers for districts 3, 4, and 5 are perfectly balanced. And not only that, the deviation is perfectly balanced. So again, this plan would meet what are known as traditional redistricting principles, and that the one person, one vote requirement is met, and I want to correct myself. The actual percentages of the voting age population would be 68% in District 3, and in District 4 and 5, 81%. There's another column in there showing the percentage of the voting age population of each district, the percent 18 plus pop, and that's for all persons of voting age.
So last time there was an indication that District 5 in your map B had a packing issue. Was that corrected in this version?
Well, I don't think that there's a packing issue with my plan. That's I guess my own opinion. There are two districts there that are over 80% indigenous voting age, and that is high. But I was trying to keep chapter boundaries intact to the extent I could, and also keep the districts reasonably compact. So this is not inconsistent with the plan that was developed by the special master, which also had districts 4 and 5 as being stronger in terms of the Native American representation than District 3. District 3 goes into the city of Blanding, so because of that, it's going to have a larger Anglo-white population, and that's reflected in the percentages. These percentages here suggest that District 3 would be 69% indigenous voting age. So that would be consistent with the special master's plan and actually a little bit stronger. It was not my intention to pack voters. I was really thinking more about trying to minimize the population shifts that were necessary to change from the old plan developed by the special master using the 2010 census to the new plan based on the 2020 census. And it is interesting that option B actually shifts fewer people than my original option A in terms of the school board plan.
Okay.
I don't have those numbers in front of me exactly, but I think the total number of voting age persons shifted for school board option B is about 900 persons, which was fewer than the numbers who would have been shifted under option A, and is also fewer than the number of persons who would be shifted under the plans developed by the Navajo Nation, and way fewer than the numbers of persons who would be shifted in the plans prepared by the Auditor's Office for the Commission. The Auditor's Office did not do a school board plan, I don't think, but their plans for the County Commission would shift a lot of people around. It would be a big change. And I did something similar with option C and D for the County Commission, where the numbers of people shifted would be much greater than in the initial plans I did, option A and option B, which I call the least change plan.
Okay.
So yeah, you see the percentages of the population in the Navajo Nation School Board plan are very similar to the percentages that I had in option B, I think. And we could scroll back, but you can see that District 3 in the Navajo Nation plan is about 69%, and the other two districts, District 4 and 5, that are mainly encompassing the reservation areas, are in the 80s.
This is yours.
Yeah, I mean, they're very similar, unless I'm having a little trouble reading the columns, and I think I'm accurately reporting the figures that are, I mean, not my columns, but in the Navajo Nation, I think I'm reporting the percentage of Navajo, the percentage of the indigenous voting age population for those three districts. But Leonard, if he's still here, could correct me on that point.
Same. Is that better?
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. It's the top column. Well, if we look at non-Hispanic 18 plus Indian, which is a similar figure, 65% for District 3, and then two districts at 78%. So the next one over, I believe, is percent any part Indian 18 plus, and those are the figures I've been quoting. And you can see there's really not any difference at all between plans I produced for the school board in terms of the underlying voting age population for the three districts. There are differences in boundaries for sure.
Okay.
And I believe that the
Okay. I think that's about it as far as explanation of the maps that we have on there. Commissioners, I don't know if that was clear as I'll get out for you. But I
Is
just,
there
I think
another
we can just,
date that to finalize this?
so there is the,
We can
and yeah, I appreciate you mentioning that. So December 29th, what was it, 21st? 21st. So December 21st is our next commission meeting where you would then adopt and approve and adopt these plans, whichever plan you want. Tonight was more to have an explanation to the public and then listen to the public through the public hearing, get their input before you select something. Just so you're aware, on our website, we do have a comment form that is associated with these maps. And so the public will be able to comment through our website on these by accessing our homepage. Then also Megan created a form that we will send out to the chapters as well. So if people don't have internet access, if we send it to the chapters, hopefully we can get the chapters to distribute it out to the people. And then I think the comment period on there ends on December 15th, right, Megan? Can't remember when it was. It's like December 15th is where. So we'll try to get it out to as many people. We didn't want to mail it out. We were concerned with the mail and people accessing their post office boxes before that time frame. And so we figured we'd just get it to the chapters and try to distribute it as much as possible. But those people having access to the internet can access and make comments on there. And then we'll get the comments and everything to you individually so that you have those as well.
Deadline for public comment is on the 15th, and we
For the form.
So it would only give you
what do you mean the form?
the form that will be sent out to the chapter houses.
The deadline is the 15th.
15th.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Yep, to
Right.
have those back to us. Yeah. Because we didn't, I mean, tonight where it's a virtual public hearing, we kind of felt bad that those that don't have internet, that there's no means to give you comments. So we felt that would at least be another alternative to get it out to the public. By creating a form, we'll send it out and have the chapters distribute. And then they can return them back to the chapters and mail them back in.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Mr.
Um,
Adams.
I can't remember, as you were going through this, I don't know if Mr. Cooper's still online, but as you were going through, you had one option that I think the auditor made a map, and I'm not sure who the auditor is. Is that
James.
the county auditor?
Yeah.
It was James.
It's James?
Yeah. James
Okay,
did this.
the one map showed, I think that the one that the auditor came up with kept blending the most whole.
It kept all townships whole.
Huh?
It kept all townships whole.
Well, I'm focused on Blanding because Blanding has come many times and said that they're a community of interest and that they need to be made the most whole. Is that the map right there?
So this is it. This is the one that the deputy chief auditor had made.
Okay.
But it splits Blanding as well. We tried, and you've seen that on the last maps that we presented to you, where in order to get the populations right, Commissioner Greyeye's area had to go all the way up north,
Yeah.
which created a problem where he had a community of no interest in his district.
But I'm just
and
trying
so-
to identify the fact that there is one map that keeps blending
as much as possible.
as much as possible in one district. Am I correct or not?
Correct.
I mean,
It is.
and it looked to me
Yes.
like that that the figures that went with this one still had a majority of indigenous, like about 54% or 55 in district.
So this one you had.
No, was it?
So you
let's
met
see.
the population deviation on there, so you're still kind of a lower percentage, but he and it doesn't look like Mr. Cooper's online anymore on here, so he should be hopefully getting back in there. But he sent me an email regarding this and the problems.
So this is
With this one specific.
public hearing. One.
Yeah. Yes. So let me on here. This is what his email stated to me on Auditor's number 3 map, which is what we looked at.
That's what we're looking at now.
Yeah, he said under almost any scenario would not fly before a federal judge because of the Native American VAP, so the voter any part indigenous in Commissioner Gray Eye's district is cut by 10 points compared to the 2018 court-ordered plan. I say almost because if Commissioner Gray Eyes voted for that plan, then it would stand a fighting chance, but no guarantees. Auditor 3 would almost certainly result in a new lawsuit,
Okay.
even if Commissioner Gray Eyes voted for it.
Permissible, ask a question.
Here he is again. So that's kind of where his comments back to that is.
Okay.
Looks like with Auditor's 3 plan, it would still result us going back to court due to the percentages. So Bill, are you there? We've seen him pop back in. He should be. Mr.
I'm
Cooper.
sorry.
So,
I forgot to unmute.
okay,
I'm
so
back.
welcome back. Commissioner Adam just had a question on the Auditor Map 3, how one of the things that he points out that it tries to keep blending as whole as possible. But kind of the statements, and I tried to explain through your email what the issues were with this percentage-wise, how it meets the population deviation issue. But then when you look at the any part indigenous, this is where it takes, kind of like you had mentioned in your email, takes 10 points from Commissioner Gray Eye's district, reduces that, which would ultimately, in a court challenge, we would have issues with. Even if Commissioner Gray Eyes voted for this map and approved it, then it would still more than likely wind us back up in court. Is that correct?
Well, that's speculative on my part, but I do know, and I have not. I don't know how many people have seen the details of the litigation that happened back in 2018, but I can certainly forward to you the special master's report about how he went about drawing the districts in 2018. And he's a political scientist and an impressive guy in terms of the thoroughness of his report. And he does review what he believes to be factors that one has to take into consideration And at the end, as he was drawing the plans, he did at least address the issue of the underlying composition by race for the districts that he had produced. And he, in turn, reviewed the findings of Dr. Engstrom, the professor that I mentioned earlier this evening. And Dr. Engstrom had determined that a district that was only in the low 50s Native American voting age population would probably not be able to elect a candidate of choice under most scenarios. And that's because of low voter turnout. Above all, the Navajo Nation is so widely dispersed that a lot of people just can't get into the post office to mail in a ballot or to get to a polling place. So that's the issue. And Judge Shelby took that into consideration as well. And that's why he went ahead and approved the final plans produced by the special master in late 2017. And that ruling by Judge Shelby was upheld by the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals in Denver. And that's just one step removed from the Supreme Court. So while there's much to like about this plan in the sense that it's, near perfect in terms of one person, one vote, and it doesn't cross any boundaries in any of the chapters. I don't think it does, or in any of the judicial, in any of the incorporated jurisdictions. It would fail on the basis of weakening one of the Indian majority districts to the point where it would no longer be a competitive district, even though it might seem competitive to some people because it is still majority indigenous, over 50%. So I would advise you not to pick this plan, even though it has certain good attributes.
Okay.
But I am just here as a consultant, and I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not making the decision for the commission. So whatever the commission chooses is the plan that goes into effect.
Thank you for that further explanation there.
Oh, yeah, on one level, all of this is sort of simple because I can do it, but I do understand that it is kind of hard to follow all the intricacies of voting rights law, and I'm probably not the best speaker to clearly lay out all of the important factors that one has to take into consideration when drawing a voting plan. I think that I developed two commission plans, option A and option B, which are perfectly acceptable as plans for the commission. And the plan that I've seen from the Navajo Nation would also work unless there's a pairing of incumbents. And if that's the case, then I suggest that maybe there needs to be a modification.
Okay.
You got
Yep.
satisfied?
Yep. I'll make
Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Motion is,
I'll make a motion to go into public hearing. Hear from the public.
is there any second?
We have to go into public hearing to allow the public to comment.
I'm not seeing
Kenneth
Commissioner
Bareboy.
Bareboy.
Are you up?
Second.
There you go. He seconded it.
Okay. The motion second to enter public hearing. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed? There being none, all those in favor, well, 3 in favor, 0 opposed, motion carries.
Okay.
Must be getting late.
So we do have members of the audience that have signed up for public comments. We'll take them first. So just so you're aware, there will be 2 public comment periods for this evening. First one regarding the maps, and the second one will be for the budget. And so just so you're aware, if that helps.
And the maps include commission and school board.
Correct. Thank you. Yeah, that's correct. So first on our list on here, I've got Terry. Are you wanting to make a public comment for the maps? Okay, all 3 of you are for the maps. Okay, awesome. Okay, just state where you live within the county, and then I'll try and give you.
On the other side, Eastland off of 491, and I am a county resident. Not a long time, just I've been here. So there's a lot of things I don't know what happened before all this stuff
Make sure
in the past. Sorry. Okay. First off, I'm going to ask a question. Are you guys familiar with the Department of Justice's Civil Rights Voters Act rules and guidelines on gerrymandering? Because if you aren't, you need to look at it, because I have 2 calls into the Department of Justice now, and I'm waiting for a return because I still have questions about it. But according to what I know and what I have read, which is over 14 pages, all these are illegal, basically. You are separating the power based mainly on race and not the voters' rights. Everybody should have an equal say in the county for whatever's being voted. That includes our commissioners. We have the right to choose our commissioners. The way this is set up, we do not. So once I get more from the Department of Justice, but they will, if we file a complaint with the Justice, they will come in and look at everything. But it's under the Civil Rights Voters Act, under gerrymandering. That being said, the way I look at it, if to make it equal, and everybody has a pretty close vote, it won't be perfect because you have a majority, we have a minority. But what I see, say, use a map 1, we need to take 831 indigenous people out of District 2, 1,163 indigenous people out of District 3, put them in District 1, take 1,645 white people, basically, out of District 1, and divide them into District 2 and 3. Then take, unfortunately, the Latinos, and I don't know, I guess there's no African Americans or Asians in the county because they're not even listed in here anywhere, but I know there is. Need to take them, since the majority of them is in District 1, split them up, and you can evenly put them into the other 3 districts, which would turn out that District 1, 2, and 3 would have 2,528 indigenous people, 249 in each district of Latino, and if the African Americans and all are included in that, and 2,100 or 2,013 white occasions, or whatever way you want to put it, which would put our votes, for the most part, is for every vote, say, in each one, say between the indigenous, the majority, and the minority, we would have a 1 1/4 vote against one or the other. Right now, it's 5-1, 7-1. The Latinos, this gets all the way up to 36-1. So they have to vote 36 times to go against the vote against. There's no equal vote. And what I can read from what the Department of Justice says, you can't do that. You have to have a even say-so all the way around, which I'm fine. But the problem is the way these are getting set up, it's not right. And you only have options. That option right there is not good. To me, and I know this is don't be controversial, we need to split the county up. Put 2 districts down south, 2 districts up north, and put 1 right down the middle and split everybody up. At least we have 2 minority or majorities fighting each other, and the ones of us in the middle can at least have a level head and straighten things out. That's the only way I can see this, or you get rid of the boundaries altogether. I don't think there's really an easy way at this, because no matter what you do, you're going to affect one person or the other. And since it's all on paper, it's not like you put a paper down, our house automatically moves, But that's my opinion. But I'm looking at, if that's the way it is and according to the guidelines, we don't want them running around here. But I'm more than welcome to have an outside federal agency come in here and oversee everything. And I'll go by whatever they say. I don't really 2018 ruling by a judge. I wasn't here for that. But it sounds like what I heard, we're just doing the opposite of what we were sued over to get straightened out the first time, where you're going right back to where it was. And that's not right. Plus, it's a waste of taxpayers' money. So anyway, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
Okay, next on here, we've got Doug Allen.
Thank you for allowing this public hearing. This is Doug Allen from Monticello City. I appreciate the efforts that are going into this. I guess, I agree with the prior comments about that. This seems like court-ordered discrimination. My solution is let's go back to open seats like the rest of the counties in the state of Utah are under, with 3-man commissions. The question I have, and I haven't heard tonight, other than the comment by the guy you hired, what's his name?
Mr. Cooper?
Mr. Cooper, is that 54% Native American is not high enough in that one district proposal. I guess I'm a little distressed that we sit here worrying about what's high enough to make sure the Native American can be elected. That is discriminatory, and it's insulting. If the candidate's good, I would vote no problems for a Native American. So what is the threshold that makes it possible that's going to meet this court order discrimination? Is it 64%? What is it? I can't imagine if this was reversed and it was 2 primarily white or Hispanic districts demanding that it be at least 60-something% their population. Boy, would we be in trouble. Be in trouble with the Department of Justice. I appreciate listening to you and being here. I really appreciate the 2 commissioners that are here. I wish the 3rd commissioner would have the guts to come to county commission. Thank you.
Right. The next one we have for public comment is Megan Gallegos.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
I don't want to hear his explanation.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chair, the last comment, the gentleman has been attacking for quite some time now, and I don't know why you allow this. A public comment is not mandatory on a policy. And if that continues, maybe we should just do with the public comment.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, my name's Megan Gallegos. I'm a Monticello City resident. I'm just, there was something that Mac read, Bill Cooper's email whenever he was offline, and it was talking about how the third auditor map would not stand in federal court. It would most likely end up in a lawsuit. And that's a little concerning to me. The use of race language, racial quotas, and percentages is concerning to me because federal law prohibits that. Federal law states that race cannot be a determinative factor on how lines get drawn or chosen. But that's exactly what's been talked about with the auditor map. Is the issue with that was that the 54% indigenous percentage is not sufficient enough. We shouldn't be looking at the races. That cannot be a determinative factor in these maps. With the clerk auditor's third map, it keeps the townships whole. It keeps communities of interest whole. That's also a regulation that's put on for deciding these maps. And the other maps, that's not even done. So one way or another, we're going to end up not doing one of the things on this, but where it keeps the commission, where it keeps communities of interest whole, I think that that's pretty good. 54%, I agree with Doug. I do not see how that is not in the favor of indigenous, where that shouldn't even be considered, but it shouldn't. And I'd like to see the judge's order where it states race has to be the majority in 2 districts for the indigenous, because that's news to me. I'd really like to see where it says in the judge's orders for that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that is all that we have here in person. Let's go to online. Online, if you're wishing to make a comment, please raise your hand. If you click on your name in Zoom, over to the right where it says more, you can raise your hand on there. So that's one of the features that will allow you to raise your hand. With that, I have one person so far that's raised his hands. I've got Jeff Begay. Jeff, just mention where you live within the county and go ahead. You're on mute as well.
There it is. I
you go.
found the mute button. Can you hear me now?
I can, Jeff. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak here. I live in Navajo Mountain, Utah, and I am a U.S. Army veteran, a Vietnam veteran, Sergeant E5 radio operator, and I served with all ethnic groups. And our mission, we all swore oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States and the Associated Bill of Rights. And we fought the Viet Cong and the North Vietnamese so that we could protect that right. And I appreciate this hearing where that right is to be implemented by the commissioners and those that are listening. I have looked at the maps. It's a very complicated numerical challenge, and I appreciate Mr. Cooper's figures and also recommendations to try to equalize and make the distribution of the population so that everybody has an equitable interest in representation, funding, and also the vote. And I support the Navajo vote, of course, basically because I reside in Utah and on the Navajo reservation, and we have been left out on a lot of benefits of the country. And for that reason, we are coming to an era where we are finally beginning to realize that we need to work together. And that's what I'd like to see out of this hearing, is that a very equitable solution be picked. My decision, my choice and recommendation to the commissioners and those of you that would be inputting into the decision is to support the Navajo distribution that was derived by them. And I am of the opinion that they have the best interest of both communities, because that's the way the distribution is, so that we have everything that the Constitution and the Bill of Rights guarantees. So I appreciate the opportunity, and I hear the opposition and the reasons for a possible lawsuit and so forth. I respect that right. However, we still need to bypass this challenge, and I wish the commissioners a lot of luck and hope that we are agreeable enough to settle on the Navajo Nation recommendation. I thank you, commissioners, and also those of you listening for allowing me to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you, Jeff. Nod.
Turn your mic volume down. Might be the mic volume. All right, let's see. Next for the public comment. I'm not seeing any other hands raised on here. So if you're able to, we'll just kind of let you unmute yourself. If there's anybody else online wishing to make a public comment, just go ahead and unmute yourself and be heard. *6 if you're on the phone. We've got a couple of people on the phone. The rest of you should be able to just unmute yourself on Zoom.
Mr. Adams,
I make a motion and we come out of public hearing.
the motion made by
Second.
Mr. Adams, second by Mr. Maryboy to exit public hearing. All those in favor, is there any comment?
Aye.
Vote aye.
Aye.
I also.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. There being none, so 3 in favor, 0 opposed. We are out of the sweat lodge.
So much for this item.
Public hearing.
Yeah, for this one here. Okay. And it's proceeding on with the agenda. Would next be the, let me get back to our agenda. So we are on
Thank you for your time.
item 10, which is the public hearing for the fiscal year 2022 budget. This is to receive input from the public on the proposed 2022 general fund and related county budgets. With that, we can turn some time over to our clerk auditor. You can probably stay right there. We can pick you up off of the microphone there at your chair too. So Lyman Duncan, he can read. It's required that we have a public clerk auditor message regarding our budget. So we can turn some time over to him to hear that and listen to that budget message.
The Board of County Commissioners is mandated by the Uniform Fiscal Procedures Act for counties to generate a budget each year for the operations of San Juan County, including its elected officials and department heads. The county financial policies remain the same as previous years. The County Dispatch Center will be outsourced to the State Dispatch Center in Price. The realized savings are to be utilized in county law enforcement and correctional services. 2021, the county received American Recovery Protection Act, ARPA funds. The 2022 budget shows $267,000 to replace lost revenue related to the COVID-19 pandemic. In previous years, general funds were used to sustain the public health department and the ambulance service program. The public health department has reached self-sufficiency for their program. The county continues to subsidize the ambulance service department as their expenses exceed revenue. In calendar year 2022, the county intends to not transfer any money from the county savings account to fund any budget shortfalls. The commission has participated in and held a public hearing related thereto for the purpose of receiving input from all interested parties in regard to the proposed 2022 budget. In cooperation with other elected officials and department heads, the commission has prepared a budget for the 2022 calendar year, and after receiving said input, the commission has made adjustments to the tentative budget that it deems appropriate and necessary, and has prepared the budget for public review. Are there any questions?
Yeah,
Okay.
a lot.
Okay.
Where are we, revenue and expenses? Is that on page 80?
Let's see. There should be one up closer. So your total revenue is right here. Let me look and see if I had it on the bottom as well. So each fund, at the bottom of each fund, and you track the fund on the top. So general fund, we've got total expenditures are down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm. 16,782.
16,782, and then so your change in the net. So originally coming in, if you remember right, when we went through the tentative budget in the work session,
Right.
last commission meeting, we were at 2.2 in the hole. We were able to go through and make the modifications under that through that meeting, kind of your advice through there. Part of it too was how we were accounting for the ARPA funds. Originally, we had ARPA funds included as revenue, but kind of what we did is we took out the ARPA funds and put them in an anticipated revenue account to where we receive the revenue in our fund, but we're not going to transfer it into a general fund budget until we have a project to do so. And so we're keeping it kind of as a restricted revenue account, but not adding it to our general fund account. And that, by taking that out, that removed a lot of that shortfall in there. And then we've just pulled what we've
how
needed.
much are we holding of those ARPA funds in this account?
So good question. We received the 2.9 million, or will receive the 2.9.
Yeah.
Half of it we've already received. We'll continue to keep that in that revenue account, restricted revenue account, not apply it yet. Let me get
1.4 or something like that.
yes.
Okay.
And then
That's fine.
we will only transfer over. I missed the mark on this screen. We will only transfer over into our revenue account what is needed for this next year. So you're at 1.4
Okay.
that's coming in to this next year's budget as ARPA funds. And we will, like I said, we'll keep that restricted account outside of any of our
Not been
other.
earmarked yet at this point.
Correct. And we didn't want it to commingle. What I would say would be commingle those dollars, especially where
Well, they're tracking.
they're
it so
tracking.
close.
Yeah, so hard. And so we wanted to keep it just outside
Yeah,
of
that's fine.
our general fund.
That's fine. Were there any other significant budgets that were affected by it to get to this balanced budget, other than the ARPA funds?
There were, as far as
Give us a highlight.
the departments, we looked at the surveyor's office is one of them that, we looked at some of the requests that they had going through that discussion that we had in work session. we kind of cut their budget. There were primarily where we could cut, we tried as much as we could to cut, to keep bare minimum, and
Were
that's
you cutting requested money? Or was
requested
it
money.
ongoing money?
It's requested. If there was a program that's specific to them, like, the surveyor's office, they receive the money for the, I keep on,
Or,
it's
for
the
the
corners,
monuments.
the monuments. So
right,
knowing that we get money from the state for the monuments, we have to keep that in their budget
right.
so they can continue to operate with the funds that they receive. So if it was any programmatic money like that, we kept them whole. But it's the Christmas.
All the programmatic money is what was
Yes.
still in there.
Yep. And that goes throughout. Each department was like that with aging
I think
services.
Willie had a kind of a question about the attorney's office and the sheriff's office, wasn't it?
Attorney's office, sheriff's office, and assessor.
Mhm.
Yeah, oh, assessor, that's right.
Yeah.
So in those three, and I think what those were related to were staffing changes,
Right.
and that's important to note in here as well for the public, is there are additions to our staffing level in
So
total.
you kept those in.
So we kept those in there. So the sheriff received a grant, and one of the few select counties in the state of Utah received federal funds for more employees.
Okay.
And so we increased their employee level for those funds because it's specific. And it's, I think, a 3 or 4 year program that funds sheriffs.
Okay.
And so we were grateful that, what was it? It was Deputy Olson that had applied for those funds, received the grant, which allows them to increase their staff level for those. It's primarily using that grant funding for that. And
And
then
he's a former city employee, isn't he?
he was a good catch.
Yeah,
So
so
he's already making money. That's what we like.
well trained,
Yeah.
Doug. Well trained.
And so with his efforts, we're able to increase there. We did increase
Yeah.
staff level for the assessor's office. We talked to you about that issue there. The attorney's office as well, using some of the funds that we received from TRT.
Yeah,
That's when we looked at the law for that. It's, you can use TRT for law enforcement, and speaking to our attorney's office, they do have a lot of cases that are, tourism related. And so it fits. And so
we talked to Elaine about
there
it.
was, so, and that's probably one of the things to note with Elaine's budget, specifically on the tourism piece, is in the past we've received, a couple $100,000 in mitigation
Yeah,
that we've been able to allocate from TRT to mitigate, the sheriff, the landfill, those items like that, the quality, yes,
Search and
ambulance
rescue.
services. The we weren't able to be as generous with TRT as we have been in the past, due to the fact that we have still not recovered
no,
our TRT from the pandemic, from COVID. And so we mitigated as much as we could on there, but we were not able to bring over like we have in the past due to that. So Elaine had gone through, she'd reduced her budget to make it fit, but knowing kind of what we're doing is still focusing on marketing in the county. That's critical for us, that we continue to market the county, but we use less mitigation money than we have in the past. In here,
but
there's
Elaine has enough money to run her department effectively, right?
absolutely, yeah. And she's, and to her credit, and previous director Natalie, and just in general staff, hands down to Allison and her efforts. They kept the ball rolling, especially with grant requests.
Yeah,
I cannot tell you that. I mean, their budget this year, they have a lot of grant requests that were awarded and approved that are coming in that kind of helped supplement it. Now, some of these grants required a county match, but nevertheless, they went out and sought the money,
yeah,
and they were able to receive it from the state of Utah and other entities. And so grateful for all of their efforts and their work, because had they not done that, they would have been looking at a significant cut
Okay,
in their budget as well. And so,
okay.
super glad that they were able to do that. I think one of the things to note in here in general, and it's not in the general fund, but we still do have a very heavy amount of the funds that are going to our EMS and supporting our EMS services. Like the clerk auditor had mentioned, a lot of our funds are now self-sustainable. So the library fund, she's able to keep within the library fund. That was also another place where we increased the employee count. We are adding recommending adding a full-time employee there to the library. But she was able to do that with the cuts that she made in her budget was enough to allow her, to improve her and increase her employee count, all with keeping in the tax that she's receiving. And so kudos to her. Same with public health. Public health was able to skinny up their budget, keep within the amounts that they receive in the funding from the state of Utah or from the feds, so they don't need any additional money from the county. The only one that's in that situation is our EMS program.
Was, I understand EMS law was passed to make it an essential service. Was that an effort to try and get the state to help fund that in the counties, or what did making it an essential service do for the county?
We've always been able to go for a 1% sales tax for EMS.
But I thought this allowed
But
for more.
the bill actually requires the cities now
Oh, it's the
to
cities, okay.
contract with the counties or as another service provider. They can go out and outsource ambulance services.
Right.
And so the cities now have to contract for this service, and none of our cities have that yet.
Yeah.
It's one of them, as I mentioned to speaking to the city manager there in Blanding. It's something that we've got to sit down at the table and just, what does that mean? What is ambulance services? And it may mean that the cities help us go after that 1% sales tax, and that helps pay for it. Or do the cities pay for it? Do we start charging them? And then, they'll throw back out, well, we're already paying for that. And what's the usage? And that was Commissioner Grayeye's question to the EMS during their presentation was, well, because we brought up the fact that there's a lot of ambulance runs that are taking place at White Mesa. Well, how many? And so we're working on getting that data to you so that we can, as we go through this negotiation with the cities, is what's the numbers? Where's the ambulance going to?
At the health board meeting, I
Yeah.
voiced that again.
Yeah.
Doctor.
Yeah, and so that's a critical one to know, is who are the frequent flyers, and as we meet with the cities, what's their call volume looking like through 911? We're doing as much as we can internally with our billing, collecting of the bills. One of them, and I'm throwing it out there, is we really need to look at the potential to move this over to the health district, because the health district, and speaking to the clerk auditor, the health district will be able to recoup more of the costs that are billed through a Medicaid, Medicare, compared to how much the county can. And so if we're putting more of an obligation on taxpayers by keeping it under the county general fund, or its own fund, compared to moving it over to the health district where they can recoup more of the costs for it, then we may be leaving money on the table because they can collect a higher percentage from the Medicare and Medicaid. Okay. I pushed that question to Clayton, and we'll work that out, but it was there before in the past. It moved back under the county, to try to help supplement it, but it just doesn't make sense, and it's not making itself whole. So something has to happen there, and it's just not our county You hear it at UAC.
Oh, yeah,
You know, you hear Commissioner Bushman. He's
yeah.
and they will take another run at this year trying
Legislature.
to get some more help.
Well, legislature only has $3 or $4 billion.
Yes, but with ARPA funds, I mean, and I guess you could argue legitimately that they are, you know, they do help with COVID and
Yeah.
they're frontline workers, and
Yeah.
ARPA funds should be able to fit and
You bet.
help us, you know, especially in these rural counties that we just can't make it work, and we're trying to make it as much as we can. One of the things to note in this budget, it does transfer, and we did not fund and didn't put money into dispatch services. So it does
Right,
transfer dispatch to,
Yeah, I saw that
you know,
price.
to price, and we think it's a good idea. The sheriff has been out. He spoke to Blanding, and I don't think it went over very well. But I think part of it is, do we just need to further explain really what does it mean that now that we transfer dispatch, who has to pay? Because Blanding City will have to pay now to have their dispatch services up north. Now with Monticello City, just as a reminder, Monticello City, we provide the law enforcement for Monticello City, and they pay us $200,000 a year for that. And so it's kind of their package deal. We'll continue to that and not charge Monticello City. Blanding doesn't pay us anything for law enforcement, but this also puts on notice, and the sheriff is going to be speaking to all the entities, is you know, all the federal agencies that have been using us as dispatch, BLM, Forest Service, DNR, the Navajo Nation, all of them will now have to pay price as well. So it's not the county picking on Blanding. It's every entity that uses dispatch
Yeah.
will now have to pay price
We just can't
for that
keep
service.
doing that kind of stuff.
No. And especially where we've had problems just hiring for that position.
Mhm.
This will, in the end, it'll save cost. Right now, we've kept in our budget under the sheriff's line item where they typically have dispatch in here. We've kept $100,000 just in the transfer. We don't know if there will be any cost in it. Our equipment that we have for 911 services is relatively new, but in our revenue, we have also decreased our 911 tax revenue that
Right.
we receive for this. That will go to price, so we forego that that money, and so that's all now shifting. But we did keep $100,000 in there,
Still a good deal.
just in case there's something else that pops up that we're not aware of. But you'll see as you're going through the dispatch numbers in here, we've pretty much gone zero. We've transferred the salary and wages back up into the jail, where they will now, the dispatchers that we have will now become kind of our control operations for the jail. So the salary, wages, FICA, retirement, uniform allowance, all of that stuff is now transferred up on top. And so you see a significant increase in the budgets because of that, but yet, you know, tried to remain relatively flat, keeping $100,000 in case there's some hiccup that we're not aware of by transferring that up there. But that's something that significantly we needed to point out. But other than that, I think across the board, other than
So dispatch went from 398,000 down to
100,000,
$200,000 saved
Mhm.
right there. Well,
and some of that was just a shift,
mhm.
a shift
I
in
understand.
the numbers.
I'm sure do we anticipate any revenue?
For
Unclaimed revenue. Fiscal
I
year
sure hope.
22.
Yeah, I sure hope. And I think, and it's a good
Or-
question, but literally, if you think about, there are a lot of grant opportunities that are coming in, and part of the ARPA funds, we had requested you to approve a grant writer or grant manager with those funds. As county staff or grant manager, whoever applies for these grants and we receive the grants, then that will be additional revenue that isn't included in here. It anticipates in our revenue that, we will still be, as you look at it on our taxes, and it's always a gamble when we're playing a revenue game, on how much we're actually going to collect in taxes. And so that's
Some of them are
always,
gonna appeal it, aren't
some of them are going to appeal, and our property, it changes. And so, we tried to hedge the bet, thinking that in 2019 you had 2,170,000. We're thinking this next year, 2,150,000. And so we recognize the fact that it goes lower. Now, we haven't received all of the 2021 tax totals yet. Those don't come out until later. And so we really not truly knowing. It's just you're hedging your bet. That may come in less. It may come less than the 2,150,000, and we'll have to adjust numbers. And that's, after we approve the budget in December, if we have to adjust, then we do a mid-year adjustment once we know our totals a little bit more sure. So there are things like that. When you look at our other grant funds in here, that's increased significantly. And just as a reminder, we have the airport grants that come in for that. That's included in here as revenue. Cal Black, yeah. And that's a federal, grant that we've received that increases our budget. Looks like it increases our total revenue, but in all actuality, it's just kind of a pass-through. It's a wash. As we work with Westwater, and we receive the money there from the State Division of Drinking Water, and we work on that project, and we're a pass-through there. That revenue is included here, but it's also included as an expense. And so there are things like that ebb and flow naturally with the county's budget. If we receive more grants, we'll receive more revenue in there. And we continue to encourage as a message to our department heads, whether it's landfill or whatever, if there's a grant, go for it. By all means, we need it. And if we can get it and it can offset county funds, then we do that throughout the year.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Adams.
I'd like to make a motion. We go into public hearing for the purposes of reviewing the county budget.
There's a motion made by Mr. Adams to
Second.
go ahead and go into public hearing for fiscal year 2022 budget. So second by Mr. Maryboy. Any discussion? There be none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, nay. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries. So we are now in public hearing. Anyone?
Okay. Not seeing anybody signed up from the audience on there. Megan, did you want to sign up again?
Looks good.
So nothing from the public here. Let's see, online. I'm not seeing any hands raised to make a public comment. We do have a couple staff members here that are in attendance just in case there's questions, but if there's anybody that wants to try to unmute themselves.
There's no response.
I'm not seeing
Therefore,
anybody.
Mr. Adams,
I'd like to make a motion that we come out of public hearing with no comment.
okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maryboy. Any discussion, comments? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye also. Opposed, nay? There being none, 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Motion carries. Mr. Adams,
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Mr. Maryboy, you like to,
Mr. Chair, can we discuss that first? Second.
Okay. Motion made by Mr. Adams to adjourn, second by Mr. Maryboy. No comments?
I'd just like to thank Lyman and Megan for attending tonight above the call of duty here. Appreciate them.
You got Tammy and Elaine
And
online.
Tammy and Elaine, if you're there, I've got your back. Appreciate you attending tonight.
All those guys right here.
I'm here and I appreciate you. I appreciate the positive comments, and I only hope that we can do our jobs to generate more TRT for the coming year.
Make it in bold, big letters so everybody can see it.
Okay, everybody that attended tonight, appreciate your comments and appreciate your participation. That's all I've got to say. Kenneth, come and get the wood.
Yes.
Vote. Call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
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 Kenneth, I'm going to be gone this weekend to the rodeo, so don't come this weekend.
Gonna go to that University of Utah
There
game.
being none,
I'll talk to you tomorrow.
motion carries, 3 in favor, 0 opposed. We have now